Something else. Hello, how are you? Sorry, I didn't mean to come up here and carry on a conversation with Kathy the whole time. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the State Department. I was just asking Kathy, I heard her talking about Ben Franklin and his reputation, and she said something about his reputation for books and inventions and something else. But whatever it was, I guarantee you folks, Ben Franklin's reputation was such that he could not be confirmed by the Senate today. I just want to make the record clear. You ought to go back and read some of that history. It's interesting. He was an interesting fellow. He was, you know, he spent a lot of time in Boston, even though he's associated with Philadelphia. And he used to swim across Boston Harbor all the time. He was a great swimmer and lived down on Nantucket with his aunt. So he was really raised. He's a good Massachusetts soul. We claim him anyway, and we keep him close. It's a pleasure for me to see you all here, and I gather you're part of about 350,000 people who will somehow touch the USA Science and Engineering Festival. And we really are grateful to you for taking time to come here today. And Kathy Novelli is, I think, our link to you, long overdue. We managed to just get Kathy sworn in a few days ago as our new Undersecretary for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment. And it is no accident that energy and the environment are linked to economic growth and to our Economic Affairs Department. Because in energy, we are obviously looking at the solution to climate change, and we are also looking at an enormously critical national security component of America's vital interests. How we provide our energy in the long term will really decide the fate of the planet, not just in terms of climate change, but also tensions, wars potentially. Wars have been fought over oil before, and obviously the source of energy is going to be critical. So what you all do as you go forward here to get us off of carbon, or at least reduce the impact of carbon on the atmosphere and on the world, is going to be critical. Even as we're looking just at that sort of parameter of our interests, we obviously face enormous challenges on things like the oceans, on just job creation. I mean, you can run the list, and every single one of these things are linked to America's security, America's interests. We are living in a very different world. Globalization is a force that no politician, no matter how good they are or how ambitious they are, could possibly put back into the genie's bottle. It's out, and it's here to stay. If you look at revolutions that have taken place most recently, the Arab awakening, as we call it, in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Syria, which began not as a Sunni-Shia sectarian conflict, but which really began with a lot of young people who were in touch with each other on their smartphones and who had witnessed what happened in Tahrir Square by a lot of young people in touch with each other on their smartphones or mobile devices, all came together and said, you know, we want a better life. We want to catch the brass ring that we see Americans and Europeans and others live on a daily basis. And so that really has been profoundly impactful. Technology is changing everything. The way we live every day, the things we think about, how we learn, how we communicate, what our options are in life. I don't know how many people saw people, thanks to technology, running in the marathon in Boston the other day, Boston, and so forth. There's all kinds of assistive devices. When I served in the Senate my first 2 years back in the 80s, I was then the chairman, by default, of a subcommittee on the Commerce Committee, which had the unfortunate moniker of being called the Handicapped Subcommittee. Obviously, everybody woke up quickly thereafter, and that was dropped. Now we talk about people with physical challenges, and we have a whole new nomenclature. But we created, the good thing we did do was create a grant program to those who took on the challenge to produce the first assisted device technology that created the capacity of people who cannot speak, or people with ALS or quadriplegics, others, to be able to be assisted in their capacity to be able to communicate. And so that came out of early computers, early computerization, voice recognition, etc. These are, there are 100 different ways I could talk to you about in which I have seen as I continued on to become chairman of the Small Business Committee, and I watched the ways in which diplomacy and national security and all of the things that we attempted to do, whether it was healthcare, where we were going to electronic records, or the different technologies that we would decide whether to pay for or not pay for in the context of trying to lower healthcare costs, you name it. There's no aspect of public policy that is not affected by the advances of science and technology. And we turn to science and technology to help us in so many different ways. One of the things I'm proud of passing in the Senate when I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee just before I took on this job was the START Treaty. And I will tell you that that the most critical capacities of engineering and of technology were put to use in our ability to use the latest advances in nuclear physics, on the testing of warheads, the simulation testing, the emerging technologies to stop the spread of weapons of mass destruction and so forth. All of these things are used. We use them in diplomatic security, where we use cutting-edge explosive detectors and armored vehicles to protect our facilities and our people. I visited a company up in Boston, outside of Boston, that produces the robots that we used in Iraq to go in and be able to defuse bombs or discover them. So there are so many uses, and more than ever, we believe, this State Department today and this President today believes we need to use all of our available tools to be able to help you to be able to create the advances of the future that are going to redefine the future for all of us. We want to unleash innovation and technology. There are a lot of things we have to do that. Among them, we also have to protect your patents, and we have to protect the creations and the intellectual property, and not allow China or some other country to rip off the hard intellectual energy expended in developing many of these things, and we are working on that. But in addition, we're doing a lot of other things. Last month, we hosted a Coder Dojo at State to teach 21st century coding skills to kids. And we've helped bring this volunteer-led movement to a lot of kids in Africa now. We're also empowering women and girls to be able to become scientists and engineers through Tech Girls. And in addition, we are working hard to try to bring 15 to 17-year-olds from the Middle East and North Africa to careers in STEM courses. We launched the State Department's first STEM at State website, which you can go to showcase how technology, innovation, and science are sort of central to our global mission. And believe me, I can't tell you the number of ways that it is. In what we're doing with PEPFAR and AIDS, and the fact that we now save 5 million kids' lives, and we may be witnessing the first generation of AIDS-free children, to the unbelievable advances that we've made with respect to a host of other health and education gains, all of which have come through advances in remote learning, virtual learning, technology, etc. So those of you who have read the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci and a lot of good scientists and engineers have. And you've been able to discern his very peculiar left to right handwriting, right to left actually. You have seen his designs for a helicopter, an armored vehicle, a calculator, the double hull, and the steam engine. And all of these inventions were obviously revolutionary, they were brilliant, and some could have been built during his lifetime, but they weren't. So our task is to make sure that no one's ideas are going to wind up languishing somewhere, underfunded, untested, underused, and certainly not appropriately promoted in ways that will grow our economy, make us stronger, and keep America in the innovation lead that we pride ourselves in having achieved and in living by. Our diplomats on the front lines, I promise you, rely on you to help do that in so many different ways, and I can guarantee you that Americans expect nothing less from all of us. So thanks for being part of this. I hope you drink yourselves into oblivion.